5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Okay, we're going to pick up a little bit where we left off last time. We're going to start, though, with Tom Fishburne, who was really early today, which I always like because it gives me something to do on Mondays. So here's today's cartoon. This is the boss talking, I guess, or the creative director. Remember to tell our brand story and hit all our key messages and convey our brand purpose and have a clear call to action. And this TikTok campaign also has to go viral. So on the count of 3, start dancing. Okay. I should do more dancing. I think it's really going to help. Anyway, and this is really going to be our theme today, that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And we'll get into that in a little bit with Jerry Dakin at the end. So also a bright spot in the air cargo. And, you know, there's a lot of news going on, and we're not going to talk about those kind of news. This is marketing news. It's a marketing news show, not what happened last night. So we try to keep a bigger picture view. So Amazon is primed to rival UPS air cargo service. And this is basically the key part here, that they're going to grow from 42 now to 200 planes in the next 7 or 8 years. So they've ordered a lot of planes and or buying a lot of planes and creating an air cargo service that could rival United Parcel Service. I noticed they didn't mention FedEx. I guess FedEx is bigger in their air service. But they're making a massive investment in a large hub at Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport. Could change everything. At a time when other airlines are downsizing, Amazon's push for cheaper, faster delivery is moving ahead at an ambitious timetable. And this is, you know, I give Jeff Bezos a lot of credit. You know, what he did with Amazon, he found a spot. I mean, he wasn't the first in e-commerce by any stretch, you know, but he figured out that people were trying to buy books at bookstores, and every time you went in, there wasn't one. And they'd have to order it. You know, they'd have to look it up on their little terminal, and they'd have to order it. And so he convinced the Booksellers Association that connected up the terminals at the little bookstores that he was a bookstore out in Seattle, and hooked up a web browser to that, so that basically he could go dynamically, and he could dynamically give the consumer that terminal at home, and figured out a way to ship from the warehouses and booksellers directly to their homes. So at the beginning, that was all drop ship, and that's all it was. And he just kept moving, and he's kept moving ever since. And so I give him some credit for that. Okay. Amazon's air robust expansion makes it one of the biggest stories in the air cargo industry in years. Okay, they started in 2016, and everybody thought immediately they would go after UPS and FedEx, but Prime Air operates out of smaller regional airports, right, close to its warehouses around the country. So they're doing it on a completely different basis. They're going to places that the other guys don't really go to, and it's helping Amazon move inventory to accommodate 1- and 2-day delivery. For that reason, some analysts have dismissed Amazon as a potential competitor, since it can only offer limited services to a small number of destinations and seems designed to handle only Amazon packages. But they're going to have this $1.5 billion. And remember that FedEx started with one main airport in Memphis. If you remember, that was the whole theory, was pick the center of the country and then go out from there. And his professors laughed at him, but it wasn't funny. And so the new hub is a big deal. And it's an international airport, so they can bring stuff in from all over the place. And so this is very interesting. And it isn't used a lot for commercial or for passenger traffic, so they can basically own that airport. All interesting stuff. Okay, in Australia, 6 million contact tracing apps were downloaded, being hailed a success and the gold standard of government tech delivery. But within a month, they've only figured out one contact trace for the coronavirus. One person that tested positive, tracking down who they came close to, and so the whole thing is kind of a bust. And some experts are concerned that lack of information on the actual use of the app makes it difficult to tell what's going on. Now, this kind of sums up the social app issues. I'm familiar with another place where they keep rewarding their growth guy for the millions of downloads of the app, and not for a real change in the size of the community. He's the growth expert, and his metrics are all about how many downloads did he get. So he keeps advertising and advertising and advertising, and the average one doesn't stay more than 7 days. That's real growth. Okay, so be careful what you measure, and getting a lot of downloads isn't the same as getting a lot of sales, and that's what we see as a big difference between the digital world and the direct mail world, because we've always been focused on not just the leads or the opens or the site visits or even the purchases, or even the purchases minus the returns, because lots of returns doesn't get you anywhere either, or the net profit even. What we focus on is the long-term net profit. The long-term, how are people doing over the long haul? How are these customers going to hold up over the long haul? And I forgot to get out there for the Periscope crowd. So if you're out there sending hearts, I apologize. We're gonna clue into you next. And then one more article, and this is from Jerry Dakin, and this is a kind of a continuation of the last episode of 10 at 10, where we looked at some of the catastrophes in digital marketing. I asked Jerry on Friday if he ever does any mail, and that was kind of the end of the conversation. So I hope we haven't ended that. I'll pry this out and see if Jerry just got busy, which could have actually happened. But getting lots of hearts now on that. Thank you for the hearts. And so I want to try to get Jerry on the show and talk about how direct mail is the best foundation for digital, which people don't understand. But here's, he sent me a few of his articles to look over, and so I really liked this one. And I really like QR codes because it makes the connection between the physical world, which I think is one of the big advantages of mail. Now, package labels are also physical, and they go with the product. It's also physical. So there's a lot of pluses on the idea of a QR code. But they put this QR code onto Cadbury. There was a plan to have this whole AR world, artificial reality. Okay? And it's this world, so you could scan your Cadbury bar, and every time you scanned it, it would take you to a different place. And you could look at your bar on your phone and be in a world of maybe fairies and dragons, or sci-fi, or outer space, or whatever they felt like. And they were going to put this huge budget together, and finally the management said, we don't think that makes much sense. But they were already printing some 350 million candy bars in the UK. They had stopped it in Canada and some of the other places in the Commonwealth, but they hadn't stopped it in time, and so they were heading out with a couple 100 million candy bars with these QR codes on it. So a great test to see how QR codes work in the real world. And he says, have you ever pressed the print button and then realize it's not exactly what you wanted, and it just keeps coming out and out and out and out and out? Yeah, this is one of those issues. So we put the QR code on well over 1 billion bars that no one really needed to have there. Okay, and his conclusion is kind of up here in the beginning. Perhaps things haven't moved on so far after all. There was a big push for AR, right? And IKEA, has this furniture catalog, and it's a paper catalog. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they did it for the last few years. Big, beautiful catalog. And you could take your phone and scan the QR codes. I believe you have to download a special app from IKEA. But if you do, you can actually see how that you can then look at the empty space that you want to put the furniture in, and the furniture appears there. And somehow it scales itself, and you can see what the furniture looks like in your room. And I don't, that's nice. I've never tried it. I've never bought any IKEA furniture, so I'm not a big fan, but I think it's an interesting application. But I went to a print specifically print and direct mail symposium or little mini conference down in Chicago about a year and a half ago, I think, coming up on about 2 years ago this summer. And and everybody was talking about how great mail is because you can deliver these unlimited experiences. Well, there's still a limit. I hate to say. There's always a limit. But then they were talking about, and since QR codes are working in the mail for getting the item to your phone, let's leap to artificial reality and virtual reality with the, everybody's going to have these things on walking around because Pokemon Go was such a hit. I did download it. I was pretty good at the intro, but once I got to the real game, I was not able to shoot the monsters. My kid said, "What are you doing downloading Pokemon Go?" Anyway, so everybody's on board with all this stuff. And it said the bar said, scan here for a joyful and innovative experience. Well, what's that? What's that? And I just want to eat the candy bar. I get a joy out of chocolate. Right? Here it is. Scan here for joy. How about open the package? And most of the packaging today can't be opened by humans. You need to have a scissors with you, which is okay because I carry two. One on my Leatherman right over here, and one on my Swiss Army knife, my little teeny one. But when I fly in the airplane, you can't open anything. You can't. I've had to give these back to the stewardess, the pretzel bags. Just open the joy. Just let me get the joy out of the package. Anyway, and they have scissors. I can tell you that. Stewardesses can do it. They know how to open those things, in case you need that. Okay, so we managed to squeeze it in there, and 350 million bars a year. The market leaders didn't see how this would actually work, so they gave up on it, but we still had that. Here's one of those key phrases. Despite those hundreds of millions of packs, I never saw a spike more than a few thousand trying it out. The code was on the back. The call to action was vague. Actually, there's no call to action. There's nothing I get. There's nothing I win. There's no clear reason to care at all. And that's clear. And if you were a direct mail person, you would understand that this doesn't help me. 50% off or free Cadbury bars if you scan this code, or win a car or something, but there's nothing, period. There's just nothing. People don't even know what joy is. Most don't. Okay, and so finally they scaled it all down, and it just goes to the website. Digital transformation is often slower than we think. It's not just moving faster and faster and faster and out of control, only if you try to embrace every buzzword that comes along every year. Don't just jump into a buzzword. Okay? Get started with smaller tests. What have you heard on this show? Test, 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 test. Always test something. Test it small. See what works and what doesn't. And when things go in unexpected directions, get ready to change course. If you think it's nuts, say something. That's high risk. Chasing deeper digital engagement, certainly for low-interest consumer brands, is a fool's errand to begin with. I just want the chocolate. And here's the funniest part. Nearly all the scans came from Soho in London. Marketing people were being impressed by other marketing people. Got that? Okay, who are you reaching really? And are they buying more because of it? Those are two questions you really want to keep asking. And finally, don't do things just because you can. And just because digital is all the rage does not mean that mail doesn't deliver. And again, I'm working on a new Why Mail webinar for USPS, because they are the proponents of all of these things that won't get people a return on investment in mail. We need to get back to the basics, and they need to understand that. They need to understand how it's transformational. That marketing kids coming out of MBA marketing business school have never even heard mail mentioned. Does a consumer want an AR experience in a busy supermarket? No. We need to find ways to use any sorts of digital touch points to make consumers' lives easier, faster, and better. And then they might use them. But if we're just trying to throw interactive marketing in their faces, they will continue to say no. Well said, Jerry. Thanks a lot for the insight and, in some ways, the confession. Have a great day. I'm John Miglautsch. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart.